What is going on, guys? Soon here, and welcome back to another episode of Loadout. Now, usually when we do these videos, we have a loadout from a movie, maybe one that's from another game, and typically they are set in stone. They are a definite loadout that we can take from and replicate in the game, occasionally using other stuff that, represents another weapon or similar. But very rarely do we have to actually choose between certain things in order to make a loadout. Occasionally we say, okay, this is here, looks like this, works like this, there you go, we got a loadout. Because this week, the change we're having is we're using a Fuze loadout from Rainbow Six Siege. Now this makes it difficult because Fuze is a character with variables. You can change a loadout in Rainbow Six Siege, so we have something slightly different. So the loadout we're going to go for is the one that I think is best for Fuze and the one I run the most often. Now, if you don't know Fuze from Rainbow Six Siege, he is probably, if not definitely, the most popular operator in the entire game. It is a horse race every single time the attackers begin to get this guy, and everyone is just waiting, bang, okay, quick, Fuze. And the reason he's so popular is because of the cluster charge that he has. You can plant this little device onto a breakable surface that will then shoot through, I believe, 5 mini grenades that will actually explode and of course kill enemies around. And they're extremely effective as they bounce off pretty much anything. And a lot of the time, Fuze is actually a really valuable operator to use. Although, of course, he is very popular, people choose him all the time. He is definitely one you want to try and use for, and one you want to unlock very recently. And to try and replicate the best Fuze loadout into Battlefield 4, of course, I went with the weapon that he does actually use in the game, or one of the weapons that he has access to. I think the best one out of the three, and that is the AK-12. Now, there is no technical Cobra sight in Rainbow Six Siege, but I used the Cobra sight for Battlefield 4 to sort of represent the Russian red dot sight, which is the same housing, but the reticle is actually different. There's no real change here. It's just sort of, one works best and looks the best, and personally I'm a fan of the Cobra, so it was a good choice for me in order to do well. Now, also, the barrel has a suppressor on it. I think the suppressor is an extremely valuable attachment in Rainbow Six Siege, despite the fact there is no minimap. A lot of time people are listening out for gunshots, so if you can actually get a clear line of sight and then shoot somebody without them hearing a gunshot, or whether the teammates hearing a gunshot, that is extremely good. Especially if you're playing as Fuze, if you find a little window which nobody can see, and you're able to get a couple of kills through that. If you don't have a suppressor, everyone's going to know you're there. If you do have a suppressor, then you probably get a couple of kills before somebody finally realizes something is up. There is no accessory because there is no accessory slot or similar in Rainbow Six Siege. I thought it would best just to leave it instead of push something in, so say, oh, it could be this, could be that. I thought it was a good idea just to say, no, we'll just leave it out. And finally, I have an ergo grip, which just represents the standard grip in Rainbow Six Siege, and although it isn't technically the same aesthetically, or statistically, it still just worked perfectly fine, and I still think the ergo grip is one of the best grips, if not the best grip in the game currently. Now, for sidearm, I had, again, I guess something to represent a weapon. I had to use the QSZ or Z92 to represent the Makarov. There is no Makarov in Battlefield 4, and I sort of thought this one has the best look to it. I'm a reasonable fan of it. It's never amazing, but it's actually pretty good. And I started to use it, and actually became quite fond of it, and as it has actually become a very, very popular sidearm personally. I used to use the M9 a lot, and I found this thing fast rate of fire, high damage, and is actually much better than the M9 ever was. To represent Fuze's cluster charge, I use the M32 3GL, which is essentially just the M32, but with 3 grenades instead of just the 1. I would have liked to use the C4, but of course there is no C4 available on the Assault class, but it would have been great to represent a breaching charge maybe. But finally I went with a flashbang, because the flashbang is available to Fuze in the game as well. Again, I would have liked to use a breaching charge and a flashbang, but the AK-12 is only available for the Assault, same for the 3GL, and that's really the main part of this, is the 3GL. So, how does this loadout perform? In all honesty, I have used much better in the past. I thought the AK-12 was actually pretty weak, only 650 rounds per minute, with a reasonable damage, 24.5 max, 18 minimum. Nothing special about that, but for a weapon with such a slow rate of fire, usually expected to have heavy damage. Of course it does not, and it's surprisingly short range as well. The recoil is easy to control but is bouncy within a sense, so a lot of the time I sort of find that it goes off target when I don't want it to, and occasionally it's quite flat and then suddenly it rears up a bit and it's quite hard to use and a little bit odd. The hip fire is weirdly good, of course I do believe helped by the ergo grip, but the hip fire for me became a bit too much of a sort of necessity to lean back on. I started to use a bit too much when I really should have aimed down sights more. Definitely the slow rate of fire and the weak damage are what kills this weapon. Like I said, usually when you have a slow rate of fire you see high damage, and usually when you have low damage you see high rate of fire, so it's an odd mix to suddenly give it weak damage, just a slow rate of fire, and it kind of makes it near pointless to use. There's nothing really that has going for it, and it is definitely beaten out by guns with more damage at range and a faster rate of fire close in. I don't really see any reason to use this aside from the fact that maybe just to get some attachments or to try a new weapon. It does have an extremely good mid-range game, but that's about it. There is no real reason to use this gun at all. In some way it's subpar to maybe average. I definitely say it's in the subpar area though. I didn't really enjoy using it too much, and a lot of time it let me down. What did help me though was, as I said before, a surprisingly powerful QSZ92. This thing is barely used by me. I used it a couple of times, and suddenly now using it, it is actually surprisingly good. I found genuine use for it instead of just sort of being there and, you know, a weapon I had to go with. It really helped me a lot of times when I ran out of ammo. I'd be able to use it. The fast rate of fire, great hip fire, and surprisingly heavy damage definitely helped me out a lot. And I will be using it more in the future when I do play Battlefield 4. And it's an interesting pistol because I've never actually seen one in real life, and although it looks like a lot of ones in Battlefield 4, it's weirdly unique statistically. It's quite one that is worth a look at if you haven't used it yet. The 3GL was reasonably pointless. I didn't really have any solid reason for it. I did destroy a vehicle with it, and that was about it, but overall this loadout was actually surprisingly good. I didn't think it would be amazing. I thought it would be pretty bad, but I was pleasantly surprised, and I actually managed to do pretty well a lot of the time. Although I do think this loadout does much better in Rainbow Six Siege than it does Battlefield 4, it's still a lot of fun to use. Now, hopefully you guys did enjoy the video. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe. Bullet on soon. Out.